have two questions. First of all, do you think that this list is complete?
No,
So,
probably not.
what other types of ethical reasons can be
Well, these
engaged?
these are those I could think of, but I'm not an expert in ethics, so I remain open. If someone has other suggestions, I would include them. This is what just I thought I could find of myself. You know, probably there are more, but I'm not aware of any of them. But I reckon that there might be a possibility because I'm not an expert in ethics. You know, that's the
I agree that these three types are widespread and very useful. My next question is, do you suppose a student to be informed, well informed about conceptual scheme of these three types of reasonings? I mean, as for me, student must know a lot about rights and about values and deontology and consequentialism. So maybe you suppose that your students always took a course of ethics.
That's the thing. There are two ways to do this. Either you assume that they took some course of ethics, but that depends when they come in. So in other words, if you do critical thinking as a first unit or people's unit for every course across all the universities, for all the disciplines, then you might want to include some ethical example, like teaching ethics within critical thinking. So if you do it in the first year, in the first semester of the first year, then obviously yes, they need to learn ethics as they learn critical thinking. If you do it at the end of the first year or within the first 3 years, then you can start assuming that they were exposed to some ethical course, so they have this kind of knowledge. So I guess it depends what's the population of students that you are teaching to. You know, it depends.
As I say, the problem is that there are a lot of different theories of right, of value, and so on. Which one we should take for granted teaching such a topic?
You know, I think it's teaching students, in my experience, sometimes it's worth spending few lectures on teaching them how to write correctly. So how to write an academic essay, even if it might seem trivial. Then spending those 3 lectures doing some history or whatever, or other things. Why? Because that's the fundamental skills they're going to need throughout their studies. They need to know how to write papers, they need to know how to think critically, and they need to know how to write their dissertation. So if they don't know how to do this, and this involves arguably having some mastery of knowledge of critical thinking, that they cannot do the following steps. So if they know, this is, I guess it has to be assessed. There should be some way of assessing students as they come into the university, some general test to test them whether or not they know at least basic things about critical thinking, how to write an essay. So if the majority of students know, then you can devise a course that can assume things. And for those who don't know, you can do something in the afternoon or some material online with which they can catch up. If no one knows, then you need to obviously start from the very beginning. So do all the basic first, because I think the basic is, it's very important. Otherwise, there's not much sense teaching them all this great philosophy if they don't know the basic of it. So that's, in my experience, a lot of times students don't know how to write an essay. They really don't know the steps because no one ever told them how to. So
these basic things are not so simple.
No, yeah, of course they're not simple. I'm saying they're simple, but there should be a way to, to do that. There must be. You can conjugate having two. For instance, you can have an introductory course having 2-3 lectures on how to write an academic essay. You can have 2-3 lectures on the basic of ethics. You can have 2-3 lectures on the basic of logic. You can have 2-3 lectures on the basic of argumentative reasoning, so models of argumentation. rhetoric, and all these things. So once you have this lecture in place, of course it's not going to be comprehensive and exhaustive, because nothing will ever be, but students are better placed to move on to other units because they have some understanding of the general principles of philosophy, at least, or reasoning.
Okay.
Other questions? Yeah, I've got a question. I've got such a question. Do you have, maybe not very closely connected with your today's topic, sorry, but I watched all your previous lectures in the internet. I got everything, thank you very much. Yeah, my question is, just because I communicated with different colleagues who are involved in this topic in Japan, New Zealand, Australia. Yeah, I know that you got your degree in Australian university. So do you have critical thinking as a completely independent subject in the curricula at your university?
Yeah.
Or do you integrate it in other courses?
Yeah, in my university, first of all, there is a debate whether or not we already discussed this. Critical thinking skills are, critical thinking should be taught as a single course, in conjunction with other courses in the literature. I don't have any strong preference for this, but there are different approaches in the literature depending on scholars and educators and their purpose and their agenda and what they want to pursue. In my university, yes, there was a subject that was called critical thinking. It was a unit on its own, independent from the units, which partly assumed some knowledge of ethics, of linguistics as well. So it was just a unit. It was not taught in conjunction with other units. But probably, I taught other courses, but not first year courses at uni. So I assume that teachers that were doing other courses, first year courses, in parallel with critical thinking, despite the fact that critical thinking was taught as a single unit, they will still teach some, critical thinking skills in their courses. Like if students take some course in ethics, they will probably have some basic of critical thinking there as well, which will not be as comprehensive as the one that is taught in a single unit, in a single course, but still would help students to go on with the specific course which they are studying at the moment.
So, as far as I understand, you teach critical thinking to the first year students, yeah?
Yeah.
You get bachelor
I
degree.
actually,
Bachelor?
I used to.
Yeah, we have got when we had connection with Glinda University in Wales, yeah, just because we had a lot of contacts in connection with the schools, they offered us this textbook.
Yeah.
So there are a number of others, yes? What do you think about Cottrell? We have got all this. What is your opinion?
Yeah, that's very good.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah, of course, yes. There are many more. If you want, I can send you some list.
So the next my question: what parts? Just because it's great course, huge one. Yeah, there is not always time to do it.
And I think that's part of a series of books, right?
Yeah. Just because it's everything what you have told about, it's included here.
Probably more.
Yeah. So huge course.
Yes.
How you can see in your course, what main accents do you make? How you can see what is the most important in this course? Just prepare them to write their thesis, dissertation, I don't know what else.
Yeah,
so
I think
they work.
probably if you can teach them logical fallacies, if they come across, when they left the course, they know how to write an academic essay. So what are the steps of writing an academic essay? This is going to be crucial for them for writing, their essays, their dissertation, so in academia, but also outside of academia, because when they want to apply for a job, they will need to write a cover letter. But if you don't know how to write a cover letter, if you don't know the principle of reasoning, you're not going to be able to write a proper cover letter, right? So this is the most important thing, but also the logical fallacies, because the logical fallacies probably will help them in their daily life, So when they listen to TV, when they listen to the newspapers, if they are prepared, if they know what are the kind of mistakes that people do when trying to reason correctly, so if they're able to spot propaganda, if they're able to spot mistakes, whether involuntary or voluntary, consciously or unconsciously done, whether issues of and there are some fallacies regarding the use of emotional language to persuade people in the absence of an argument. So if they are able to do this, then they'll be much better citizens. So they'll be much better off on their own to live in this world than without it. So I would say logical fallacies and how to write an academic essay are the two most important things that I expect them to know when they finish a course there. Then if they don't know who was I don't know, Aristotle, it doesn't really matter, you know, because you can live without Aristotle, but you cannot live without knowing how to judge information.
I see. Not only academic purposes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Other questions?
So can I ask you one more? What author of textbook? Just because I watched a number of lectures in the internet when I was preparing to listen to your lectures, different American academicians, who read also lectures on critical thinking. How do you consider, just because from practical point of view, what books on critical thinking, what authors do you prefer? Do you think are the best in this field, as you are so much involved in it?
You mean like for teaching? Or
For teaching this subject, just because it's
for books?
going to be it's going to be also independent, so it will be such a subject also at our university.
I forgot the name of the guy. Wait, I can find it somewhere. I'll put it if I find it. Wait. Because he has a very nice book on this. I just forgot his name. He's British philosopher. He's got this book for Oxford University that was published in 2001.
2001.
Yes, I think so. I included it for my module that I'm going to teach next year, but yeah, wait, maybe it's not here. Hopefully. Yeah, this one. Elbow, that's the guy. Everyone can write essays towards a hopeful theory of writing and teaching writing. 2000. This is very good book that I would recommend.
So this is you mean you're going to start with?
No, this is another course. This is a course on it's on neuroscience and the mind, but it's a.
The first lecture is
The first,
always about writing.
Yes, because I know that it's gonna be like this, because they're not gonna know, most of them, because most of them, are international students, so coming from all different countries. So you cannot assume that they will know. So I always prefer to have a lecture, regardless of the background of the people, on critical thinking and how to write an essay, because if I tell them exactly what I want when they write an essay, then if they follow their guides that I give them at the end of the course, they're gonna do decently well, if they put some effort. If you don't give them such guidance, they will stick to their own knowledge or lack of, and maybe the result will not be good. So that's why I always include in every course I teach first lecture to tell them how to write an academic essay. I think it's good to write an academic essay, at least it's not ipse dixit.
So we do have a similar lecture about not how to write, but how to read.
No. Maybe I should.
Okay, other questions? Maybe for not only for this lecture, but for other parts of the course?
I'm just interested in wherever you think that issues of cognitive science are relevant to the course of critical thinking, because in all your 3 lectures it was nothing said about it.
Yeah, because cognitive scientists, they don't really, because they're scientists, they don't really engage in critical thinking. They don't really think it's important, normally. If you take, because why? They're most about doing, depends how you define critical thinking again, but not in the way that we philosophers are interested in. So in logical fallacies, in logic and linguistics, and they're more whether or not the experiments are consistent, which is a form of critical thinking, but it's not as deep as we want it to be. So yeah, more largely, cognitive scientists, they just don't assume that critical thinking is there. For instance, I did my PhD in the Department of Cognitive Sciences, full of scientists, neuroscientists, psychologists, biologists. There wasn't a course on critical thinking taught in that department, you know, and so it was, and students who were coming from other departments, like psychology, biology, they were redirected to the philosophy department where I was teaching, because I was doing a PhD in the cognitive science, but it was just research there, and very few courses, and other courses were taught in the philosophy department. So students were going to philosophy department to do that. And critical thinking among scientists, in the way we live as philosophers, is not really, at least in my experience, is not really taught or used. They look for, when you do an experiment, you look for replications, whether or not it's replicated, whether or not there are any biases with sample, with population, how big is the sample, how big is the population, what kind of content biases, issues like this, cross-cultural, very rarely, because psychologists they really don't like cross-cultural studies. They're universalist, the old school at least. There is a new tradition in cultural psychology that is trying to emphasize, that comes from Luria, from Vygotsky, the Russian tradition that comes from there, but in the West, and it's not very well developed. I mean, there are some scholars that do that, but it's not like mainstream in psychology, at least. In psychology, mainstream is like universalism. So there is a quality, a certain quality, which is universal among humankind. And the fact that confirms this is that if you pick up 100 publications from Western psychologists, even in top universities, the US, UK, Germany, wherever you want, you find that out of maybe 100 publications, 90 publications are make general claims about supposedly universal human quality based on assumptions that are drawn on a very, very specific number of students, group of students, which are always undergraduates, between 21 and 23, from Western industrialized countries, very rich. And there is a paper in this respect, it's quite famous, it's written by Joseph Enrich, who is a psychologist, neuroscientist and anthropologist. He works in University of British Columbia. It's called The Weirdest People, because it says in this paper that it's accusing essentially psychologists of making universalist claim on the basis of very weak empirical grounds, very restricted societies, which are always weird, stands for Western ears, educated, industrialized, something else I don't remember what are the names, but that's the idea. So he's accusing traditional psychology of speaking to this, and it's true. So this paper was published only in 2010, and it was published in Behavioral and Brain Science, which is one of the top journals in neuropsychology, and made a huge, it was a huge fuss about it. All psychologists talking about this paper, disagreeing, agreeing. So yeah, the issue of cultural specificity and cultural specificity is very big now in psychology in the Western world. But it's surprising because you look at university, Western universities are always top ranked, right, in everywhere. But in fact, that tradition comes from, it's been largely ignored. It comes from the Soviet Union, because Luria, all this. They were the first to develop this kind of cross-cultural studies, So it's interesting. I think I went too far from the original question. I don't remember what was it, but I don't know if I answered it. Anyway.
Well, so do you in your course use such things as framing effect, priming effect, anchoring, and so on?
Yes, you can sometimes. But
it's extremely interesting for students, I must say.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes I do it, but the thing is that I noticed that, for instance, in my case, students don't like it very much. They like more talking about ethics, talking more about linguistics, talking more about logical fallacies. They understand that better, in my experience. So I don't put that much, not to, because normally they are very first year students, that do critical thinking. So they are like easily scared, they get easily scared, you know. So I don't want them to run away just putting too much science in the beginning, otherwise. But yeah, no, I agree with that. I think if you want to devise a course properly, you want to include this. But again, there is so much to include that you need to find a balance between what is also graspable by people in those early stages, you know. So students in those very early years. So you don't want to make it too difficult, too complicated for them.
Yeah, and now we have a really big question. Where is the balance? What rules, what grounds we have for the balance? What do you think about it?
Well, I think first of all it depends on how long is your course, no? So how many lectures do you have? I don't know. Like in Australia, I had I think 13 lectures per semester, which means there's not much space because I was doing some introduction to critical thinking, how to write an academic essay, then focusing on deduction, two lectures, induction, 2 lectures, probably induction, then doing some application of critical thinking in society to show them how it can be useful. And so when you do this, then you don't have much space to include other things. So the balance, I think it's difficult to find. I mean, I cannot say I can give you a perfect suggestion. I think it depends on your students, on what they're interested in, on their background, on how much time you have to develop.
Do you have any feedback from your students about this balance?
Yes. For students, on the balance, no, I don't have it. No. I don't think I have it. Because they submit it, but they submit it because in Australia it works like this. You do your course, then at the end of the course, therefore the students have some forms which they fill regarding the teacher's performance throughout the course. But this is then sent to the department and they don't share it with the teacher unless you explicitly request, but it's a bit of a drama to get it because you need to get authorization from some people. I don't know who exactly. So I don't have direct feedback on the course from students. I guess I could ask the department if they still have it, we probably store it somewhere. And or I could try to, maybe it's more useful, I could try to send you what was the program that I was doing, so you can look at it and modify and change it as it fits you and your students and their background. Maybe this is more helpful. So give you the series of lectures that I was giving, and then you see what you want to keep, what you think is not good, and you revise your program on the basis of that. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Right, thank you.
Would be so kind to say, do you raise this course only for humanitarian or also for students of technical specialties?
Yeah, this is a people's unit, which means that all disciplines are potentially involved.
All this.
So I have students from economics, I have students from biology, from geology.
So it can be anywhere.
Actually, philosophers were the minority because obviously mostly were people were studying economics because it's more popular.
Economics.
Yeah, economics. Yeah. So first year students, they were mostly from economics, with some management, communication, because these are subjects that most undergraduates study. Philosophy is very rarely studied as a because if you wanted to make a course on critical thinking just for philosophers, probably you would have very little attendance, would not justify running a course at all, would not be profitable.
Yeah.
So for the uni, unfortunately, you have to look at this.
Do you have any articles or recommendations published where it's possible to read how you organize your course, your curriculum?
I don't have articles on critical thinking because I don't do I teach this, but it's not my field of research. But if you want, I can look it up and send to Daria and I can circulate it.
Other questions, huh? Maybe I have a proposal. There's some people who find work, very involved in teaching critical thinking in other circumstances. Maybe other disciplinarian.
Yeah, that's me.
You can give some.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not ready, sorry.
Just because as I understand, you have course of critical thinking for
No,
master
it's
class.
necessary to say so. We are just preparing it. It was integrated into the curricula of students who were going to get two diplomas. One Russian, yes, and now national. I'm from National Research University of Electronic Technology, so they got one diploma here in Russia, and the second one for a year. In parallel, they got some classes, some courses at Glinda University. So when we began to communicate with our colleagues in Glinda University, it became completely clear that the majority of our students, they even don't know what it means critical thinking. Yes, so and just because from the very beginning we have got what we humanitarian subjects, one term of philosophy where they just began after school understanding what it means philosophy, yeah, what it means to think, yeah, only maybe the basic knowledge, and after that that's all. Only physics, mathematics, and a great variety of different special subjects. So it was absolutely new, and of course, what it has been said, they even don't know how to write essay. Moreover, in English, yes, it's impossible task. So that's why we decided that it's necessary to do. Yeah, but I want to say that in comparison with this experience, we are doing about nothing. Yeah, maybe some introduction, yes, in these writing skills. What I use, just I try to teach what it means, what it includes, how to write essay, and also maybe such basic key points of research work in English, just because they should write and protect their dissertation, also in English. That's all. But to say that it is, I have got a number of lectures that I really read them, it's difficult to say. It can be 5 or 7 sometimes, and they are much more in the form more communicating, explaining, half a lecture, half a seminar, if it's possible to say. Yeah? So double side work. So that's all we have. Yeah, but we are going to do in the near future. By this reason, I'm very much interested how. So I communicate a lot, and the first time when I began thinking that it's absolutely necessary, especially in training of technical microelectronics or any other specialist, it was the World Philosophical Congress in Athens in 2013 in Athens, and there was a special section, if it's possible to say, where we met everybody who is involved in this field, and we exchanged experience. Yes, as for me, I had at that period of time about 0 experience, so that's all what I know. So I'm trying to visit seminars, listen to lectures, and get the information, everything that I could integrate into my course. Yes, so I think it's great. Yeah, it's great. So I meet the first time the tutor who is involved, yes, like you, who is involved in high school in teaching, just because as a rule in the World Congress in Athens, they were school teachers, yeah, they teach in New Zealand, and they began that. It was a great surprise for me. They start since, by this reason I asked, since the 5th form. Children at school, since the 5th form, they have got a subject, critical thinking, and they are doing about the same practice. I think it's great.
And from how long are you having this course? It's 2 years, 1 year?
Yeah, unfortunately it is only the first year, 1 year, and the first term of the first year for postgraduate students, just 1 term, very short. As a rules, 1 classes we have got in 2 weeks, yeah, so about 7, 8, that's all what I have. Minimum, yeah, about nothing.
So for now you don't have any feedback from students that have finished the course?
Yeah, of course, we have just because my aim also to help, and it's my strong obligation to help them in writing their dissertation at the end of their course, that it would be logical, that would do research, and it should be done not in how we write, yes, but they should parse a number of, should follow the number of criteria from British University. So it's not easy.
Also, I guess it's, you mentioned that before when I'm not in the